All right, I'll just go from here. So in today's fast-paced manufacturing environment, products are being developed so fast and put out into the field that field service technicians can't keep up with, can't be trained for the actual equipment. And so their nature of their work is changing. They go into situations knowing how to do things, but not knowing the specifics. So as a result, there's been a lot of work to do comprehensive documentation in the field, PDFs, mobile devices, and people like myself at my company and other people here are developing AR documentation for use in the field. But invariably, they need to turn to some sort of expert who actually understands the process, and this is where sort of tier 2 support comes in. Remote subject matter experts expand their network of knowledge, and the baseline for this is phone support. So obviously, most tasks are visually oriented, and a lack of knowledge about the scene hinders the remote expert's ability to help. So hence, tools and apps that come into the scene to mediate the situation. Things like remote desktop tools obviously work for computers, but for something in the field, you need something like maybe mediating annotated photos, being able to mark them up with freehand, arrows, circles, text, etc., and share them with the person in the field or back and forth. Now, one issue that comes up with this has to do with the audio handoff, because a lot of times remote assistance starts with an actual phone call, not going right through the app. If you do go right through an app, obviously you can manage audio that way. So there's two common scenarios here. You start by calling into a call center, and in that case, you would be encouraged to start the mobile application, and then you would show up in a queue, and then the remote expert can engage you that way. If you're doing more of a peer-to-peer situation, then you might have a lookup, a directory. This is commonly done where you call that specific expert. So still, that's not quite enough just to be able to share annotated photos. So this is where video remote assistance comes in. Video remote assistance has been greatly helped by the fact that LTE networks can now support the minimum bandwidth required for this. I'm sure everyone here knows that. And Google's WebRTC standardization effort has really helped in this regards, because it allows companies to reduce the engineering effort that they have to put in to create peer-to-peer communication protocols. The WebRTC standard has broad support in all the major browsers, and so you can, with zero configuration, you can do Skype-like web calls, audio and video. So some considerations in this area. Obviously, you know, if you're looking for this kind of technology, you're going to care what kind of hardware and OS support you have. These implementations, and there are at least 5 or 6 companies on the expo floor who have solutions in this area, have been implemented on iOS and Android, also on Android wearables such as the ODGs, and all the way down to smart glasses, and also HoloLens. There are some networking considerations. In about 5% of cases, peer-to-peer cannot be established, so you need to make sure that you're prepared for some bandwidth to a relay server. And then some corporate networks environments have maybe using proxy servers for web, or their firewall may block unsecured web sockets. So these are just some little gotchas, but for the most part, these technologies work in most environments. So obviously, so some more features in this area. Two-way audio and video. You really, I think you really only need video from the field service technician to the subject matter expert, but some applications include it both directions. So you can look at the SME's face. But obviously integrating snapshots and annotations is a nice feature to have, or a very important one. A nice feature is to allow both the FST and the SME, as you call them, to take snapshots. And then another nice feature is to allow both of them to annotate the same one at the same time. It's also a good idea that if the remote person can take a snapshot, but it doesn't come from the video feed per se, but it comes actually from the source video, because the video feed may be grainy or downsampled. Another nice feature is to be able to edit those annotations, to show, hide them, turn them on and off, move them, adjust them. And some other considerations are having session history and some analytics around how long tasks took, etc. And obviously one thing you want to have is timestamped annotations against video if you've recorded the session. I think I skipped over that. That's another feature that's maybe desirable, is the ability to record the audio and video of sessions. So obviously this still has some limitation. If you're just looking at annotated snapshots, ideally you would like to see annotations live in situ. And so this is where augmented reality and computer vision come into play. So using computer vision tracking on mobile devices, we can make annotations remain stable in the scene over the video feed that the user sees. This has typically been done with 2D fiducials or natural feature-based fiducials, but recently there are now solutions that do markerless tracking, and this is really making this a very desirable and easily deployable solution, because the person in the field doesn't need anything other than the mobile device. So my company recently did an implementation with Wikitude's instant tracking. This is a video of somebody in the field trying to get some repair help on a car. So she's taken a snapshot, and then she drew that on it. And then here I am at the computer. I see the drawing stabilized, and then I can take a snapshot of my own. I can add content, and then she sees that there in her phone, stable, and remains where it is. And then I have the option to turn things off, hide things, etc. So some features to look for in this product offering is similar to video remote assistance. You'd like both the SME and the FST to be able to annotate the snapshots. It becomes more important to be able to edit and manipulate these things, because now they're living in the live feed. So you don't want to clutter up what they see through the video too much, so it's important that the SME can hide things and adjust and show them as they see fit. Also, another nice feature is to be able to go back to previous snapshots as the SME or even the FST and do annotations from there, because the person in the field might not be looking where you want them to look, and you might want to draw something in another location. So that's an out-of-view annotation. And then you can also, there are some situations where the depth at which an annotation was placed in the world may not be accurate, and the SME can actually adjust that by looking at it from another angle and maybe sliding it in or out. Another interesting feature is the ability to integrate pre-authored animations into these remote assistance sessions. So if you have already authored content, like how to open something, unscrew something, etc., it's nice to be able to insert that. one thing about this, though, is that it does require proper scale, which not all tracking solutions give you. So if you have targets of known size or objects of known size, then you can do this. So here's an example of our content creation system. So this is an object that's in our content creation system that you might create AR or 3D documentation for. And then here's an example of in a remote assistance session, the SME is adding that object, and then they're sliding it into position over the object. Now, from this point, then you can run other pre-authored animations on that equipment, or you can turn on and off the highlighting of different parts of the equipment. So, so we already have, we're already seeing on the expo floor, some companies are demonstrating 3D object recognition based on CAD data. So what this means is that if you have a model from your engineer of a piece of equipment, you can give it to the system, and then it can be recognized in the scene, in situ. And this will come with scale. So this means that, that we can start doing tracking and inserting content in there onto the model. Another interesting thing to think about is that these tracking solutions like HoloLens are generating environment meshes. And these environment meshes, you can reproject the video onto them, and this can allow the SME basically to manipulate their viewpoint into the scene so that they're not dependent on where you're looking from. They can zoom in, turn, twist, and look from different viewpoints. So where is this all leading? This is basically leading to telepresence. Thank you. So telepresence is basically, imagine the future where people have an Oculus or gear and they put on the headset and they basically go to the scene. The environment's being reconstructed. That's really the end game for this kind of remote assistance. And also, if you think about it, there's also opportunities for sort of XR or extended reality, teleportation. This is an interesting little snippet from a video. It's 10 years old, pretty prescient, but what happens in this is this guy playing a game here is going to take his perspective, and then he's going to zoom up from his perspective. And that gave him some advantage so he could see something, and then he came back to reality. So imagine if you missed that. So here he starts here, and then he basically goes up into the air. So imagine you're wearing your AR goggles, and you decide to teleport over to that side of the room, and then come back. So that's really XR. Thank you.